Hi, I'm Stu from HiveMind Automation and welcome back to the Hive. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at this Meross Smart Wi-Fi Essential Oil Diffuser. As always, we'll take a look around the outside of the box, we'll get it out of the box, and we'll get it paired up with the native app. And in a future video, we'll see if we can get it paired with Home Assistant as well as all my other Meross devices. So while I roll the intro, why don't you take a moment to subscribe? And if you hit the bell icon, you'll get a notification when I release new videos, which is normally each week. While you're at it, if you like what I do here and you want to support the channel, there's some affiliate links to smart home gadgets that you can buy for your own smart home and support the channel at the same time at no additional cost in the video description, including the Meross Smart Wi-Fi Essential Oil Diffuser. Or you can also support the channel directly through my Buy Me a Coffee link. Of course, those affiliate links and my Buy Me a Coffee can all be found on my website, hivemindautomation.com.au. With all of that out of the way, let's get started. So if you've been watching for a while, a couple of months ago, I did a review of the Meross Smart Wi-Fi Outdoor Plug, and Meross about a month ago reached out to me asking if I'd be interested in a collaboration after they watched the video about that. But based on my experience with that outdoor plug, I wanted to get to know the Meross brand a bit more. So of course I said yes to a collaboration. We already looked at the smart LED light bulbs and the smart Wi-Fi garage door opener, and now it's time for the smart essential oil diffuser. My partner and I have talked about something like this for a while, but we've never really found anything particularly compelling. That said, when Meross reached out, I had a look at what was on their web store and asked if they could send me one of these, and they said yes. Now, the Meross Smart Wi-Fi Essential Oil Diffuser is normally $65.99 from Meross on the Amazon store, and it is Apple HomeKit compatible. The feature set states that it has voice and app remote control, scheduling and a timer, and an RGB light, among other things. Now, in terms of prerequisites, there's not really much to talk about. As always, we're going to need a 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi network, and we're going to need the Meross app installed on our smartphone. And for HomeKit compatibility, if you want to control the unit with HomeKit when you're not at home, you'll also need to have a home hub set up as well. But I think I'll do a separate HomeKit deep dive video to kind of explain what some of those things mean. As always, let's start with a look around the outside of the box. So over here on the B camera next to the cat, we have the box, and we've got Smart Wi-Fi Essential Oil Diffuser MOD 150. Works with Apple Home, Alexa, Google Home, Smart Things. On the right hand side, remote access, voice control, smart scene, multicolor mood light, 2 misting modes, no hub needed, sunrise and sunset mode, ultrasonic cool mist. On the left side, serving suggestion. On the back, technical specifications, input 24 volts at 0.65 amps, ambient light RGB, water tank capacity 400 milliliters. It is 6.63 by 6.63 by 5.7 inches. The wireless standard is 802.11bgn 2.4 gigahertz. The system requirements: smartphone running iOS 13 or Android 6, and an existing 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi network. Some manufacturer details, some small print, and a 1-year warranty with the support email and website listed. Just a Meross logo on the top. So now that we've looked around the outside of the box, let's head to the unboxing bench and see what's inside the box. So we'll open up the top of the box, and there's a QR code and some tips and warnings right on top of these top flaps here. And once we fold those out of the way, we get the power adapter, and it is a 24 volt 0.65 amp power supply for 15.6 watts of DC output. Under the power supply is the diffuser itself inside a plastic bag, and the top comes off pretty easily. We'll look closer at that in a second. We've got a user manual in here, and also a 7 things you need to know about HomeKit booklet, which we also saw in the garage door controller box. With the paperwork and packaging out of the way, We can now take a closer look at the unit itself. The lid just lifts off. There doesn't seem to be any way to clip it in place. Inside we've got something else. Check that out in a second. And if we look at the base on the underside, you can see a fan inlet, the power input, Apple Home pairing code. Back to the other thing in the bubble wrap, and it's just a little jug for measuring water. It's pretty rare that you would get anything like this with something like an essential oil diffuser, but they do tend to be pretty important so that you don't overfill the tank and make a mess. So that's everything you get in the box there, minus the paperwork. It has this white translucent ring around the seam where the top and the bottom meet. That's then going to glow with the RGB color of your choice when we get to lighting it up. We can plug in the power lead, which has been designed so it sits nice and flat. I will say that the unit does feel very plasticky, but that's really not uncommon for these kinds of essential oil diffusers. With it out of the box, we can go set it up. Before we do that though, the Train and Hobby Show is back for 2024, running this year on the 16th and 17th of March at Sandown Racecourse and Entertainment Centre. There'll be makers, arts and crafts, model railways, radio control models, ham radio and electronics, computing and home automation, and for the very first time this year, we've also got trading cards and pop culture at the Train and Hobby Show. I'll be at the Train and Hobby Show again for 2024, showcasing smart home gadgets and home automation using Home Assistant. Tickets are already available and it's sure to be a great family day out. And we're still looking for exhibitors and sponsors for the Train and Hobby Show 2024. So if you want to come along and showcase your hobby, promote your hobby-based store, or you just want to showcase your brand to the thousands of families that we're expecting to come through the gates this year, be sure to get in touch or purchase your tickets all via the website trainandhobbyshow.com.au. That's trainandhobbyshow.com.au. And now back to the Meross Wi-Fi Essential Oil Diffuser. So I have to say that the pairing process didn't exactly go smoothly, and you'll see why in a few moments. After powering up the diffuser and making sure that the green LED was flashing, and opening up Apple Home, I tapped the plus button in the top right-hand corner and then add accessory. There's no Bluetooth or NFC proximity for the pairing, so we need to scan the QR code on the bottom. It's a good thing there's no water in the unit just yet, because we do need to flip the unit upside down in order to do that. Interestingly, Apple Home detects the unit as a humidifier, which I thought was a bit strange. As always, it took a moment to pair and then we were prompted for which room to put it in, and I decided to put it in my office. We were then prompted for the device name, which I decided to leave alone, and then we were asked about the humidifier details, where we can change the name of the individual things in the device. There's different accessories here. So I changed the humidifier dehumidifier accessory to mist, and I left the light alone, but that turned out to be confusing a bit later on. Tapping continue, we were prompted to turn some recommended automations on, which I'll leave alone, and then we get added to the Hive. I tapped view in home on this prompt, and that promptly crashed Apple Home. And I thought that was really weird. I've never had Apple Home crash on me before. I reopened Apple Home, navigated to Stuart's office, and as soon as I tap on the Smart Wi-Fi Essential Oil Diffuser, Apple Home crashed again. As a troubleshooting step, I went and grabbed my iPad, opened up Apple Home and navigated to Stuart's office and tapped on the Smart Wi-Fi Essential Oil Diffuser, and it didn't crash. So now we can test it out. After getting the cat out of the shot, I turned the light on and it's quite dim, so I turned off the backlight. Like with all lights in Apple Home, we've got our favorite settings, and the last swatch is to grab the color picker. Inside the color picker, we can choose a color and then tap the plus button under the brightness slider in here to add a new favorite to the main controls page. There's color temperature settings, which didn't do much, and there's also the color swatch page here too, and we can choose those and add them to our main controls page if we want. The light is honestly a little bit on the underwhelming side, but it is nice that it's there at least. Next, I poured 100 milliliters of plain tap water into the tank of the diffuser from the included measuring jug, and I tried to turn it on using Apple Home, but I couldn't drag the slider, nor did the off section here, the mode selector, do anything. For now, I'll click on the cog to open up the device settings. As always in here, we've got the name, the room, and there's an accessories option here that has a number 2 next to it. And when we drill in here, we see the tile for the mister and a tile for the light. When I tap the mist tile, it turns the mister on and started generating vapor very quickly. I turned the room lights off and the backlight back on just so that you can see the vapor a bit better here. Back in the settings, and we've got add to home view, include in favorites as option toggles in there. And because there's 2 accessories, we have a link here to show as separate tiles. And when I tap that, it drops us back to the Stuart's office page here. We now get the mist accessory and the light accessory showing separately. And this is what I mean by we should have given the light a different accessory name, because my office already has a device called light. But now at least we can control them separately from this dashboard. Now I did notice that when we drilled into the mist entity, we could now control the slider, but dropping it down to 51% turned the device off, and it took me a moment to figure out why. Interestingly, with these separate tiles, Apple Home only crashed on the mist accessory on my phone. But when I drilled into the mist accessory settings, I noticed that the current relative humidity value was there, and it seems to be pulling that from the temperature and humidity sensor that is embedded in that room as well. Now, because HomeKit thinks that this is a humidifier, dehumidifier device, the slider in the control seems to be defining the target humidity of the room and trying to get it to that value. And that's why when we set it to 51% before, it turned off, because the humidity value detected by the temperature and humidity sensor in my office was already 68%. Exploring the accessory settings for the light some more in here, we've got the HomeKit automations that we can add the light to. And all the way at the bottom, like we always see, there's the manufacturer details with a link to the app, the manufacturer name, the serial number, the model number, the firmware version, and the remove accessory button like we always see here. And that's all replicated on the Mister accessory as well. When I tapped open next to the Meross app here, this is where I started to have a little bit of trouble. I tried tapping the plus button in the top right corner for the diffuser to be auto detected, but nothing was auto detected. Scrolling through the list, I found the Smart Humidifier and Diffuser option, tapped on it, and selected the MOD 150 series like we saw on the outside of the box. Now it asked me to please read the user manual carefully. I tapped next, and the next step tells me to make sure that it is in pairing mode with the LED flashing, which it wasn't because it was still paired. I pressed and held the mist button, which is the one on the right, until the green LED started flashing, which was around 10 seconds. Then I tapped next. I was provided with the pairing instructions to pair using HomeKit via the Meross app. Now, my first attempt to pair here failed because I still had the unit paired to HomeKit. So off camera, I removed the accessory from Apple Home and started the process again. This time, because there's water in the tank, I had to be a bit careful about how to pair the unit, because I couldn't obviously turn it over to scan the pairing code. I did have to contort myself a little bit to aim my phone camera at the QR code properly. I do kind of wish that Apple would allow me to swap to the front-facing camera for HomeKit pairing, and I've submitted that feedback to Apple via their feedback mechanism. However, I'll be surprised if it does get implemented anytime soon. Once again, we're prompted to put the device into a room, and I'll put it in my office again. We'll leave the device name alone again. We'll set the sub-accessories names. And again, I forgot to change the light to something else here. I should have done that, but I did change the humidifier, dehumidifier back to mist. I'll skip the automations again, and we've got the humidifiers added to the hive. I'll tap done, and the Meross app shows that the diffuser is successfully installed, and we can tap done on there. We then got prompted to enable Amazon or Google control for the Meross app. I'll leave those alone this time around, but I might explore those later. When I hit not now, I then get dumped back out to the Meross home screen where I can tap on the diffuser tile. And I got prompted immediately that there was a firmware update which claims to fix the mode mismatch and the crash on the latest iOS system, among other things. So I ran that update, which took a couple of minutes to apply. Once that was done, back on the home screen, I tapped the diffuser tile again, was taken to the light controls, which showed that the light was off, even though it was clearly on, as you can see on camera. I tapped the power button in the middle of the color wheel and was presented with some options here. The first thing to notice is the auto cycle switch in the top right-hand corner. With that turned on, the color wheel starts spinning and the LED on the unit cycles through the different colors on the color wheel. With the switch off, we can then grab the color wheel and then spin it to where we want it, and it will stay as a static color there. I was, however, not able to grab the brightness handle to change that setting, which is a bit weird, and it seems like a shortcoming in the UI of the Meross app here. But we know from Homekit that it does support dimming, so that's a bit strange. There's a selector between a color wheel and a white balance wheel. And when we tap the white balance wheel though, I can't actually see any difference across the wheel. So it kind of seems like this interface might have been designed for a different light source, maybe a light bulb of some kind. It's a bit strange here that nowhere in the light controls do we find anything that references the diffuser at all. I'll take a look in the hamburger menu to see if we've got anything useful in there. We do have all the usual suspects like the device name, an option to turn off the green LED on the device, and a link to the user manual. All our usual time zone, date, time, and location settings. We can access the Homekit setup code from here if we need to refresh our memory as to what that is. There's the Wi-Fi signal listed here, which isn't particularly good in this corner of the house. We see the model number, the firmware version, which is now 4.2.4. It was 4.2.2. And we see the hardware version and the hardware MAC address, and as always, the remove device button. So I still don't seem to have any controls for the diffuser. When I back out to the home screen again, though, we see some additional buttons on the diffuser tile. We've got the power button in the top right-hand corner, which rather than toggling the light like we would normally expect it to, it toggles the mister on and off. And by default, we see that it turns on into the heavy spray mode, which there's a button for on the bottom left of the tile. When we swap to the light spray mode, it did take a moment to reduce the output, but it does seem noticeable in camera. I did have a hard time seeing this change in the room though, so it's hard to say how much of a change it actually is making. I'm actually a bit disappointed that the light controls don't have the interface for the misting controls included, and that they're only on the home dashboard here. I can live without it, but it does seem like a missed opportunity. So that's pretty much all the options in the native app. But while I was here, I decided to head back over to the Apple Home app to test out if the firmware update had fixed that crashing issue. Unfortunately, it didn't. So after checking out the HomeKit controls in the native app, I moved the diffuser into another spot to test the physical controls and also get some B-roll footage. The mist button on the right toggles the mist between off, light spray, and heavy spray, and you can see that interaction in the app, and it just kind of switches between those three modes. The light button on the left toggles the auto cycle function on and off with a single click. Pressing and holding the button down turns the light off, and another single click turns the light back on. The double click doesn't seem to do anything here. It did take between a half and a full second for the changes to be reflected in the app, which seems about right. I'm not too worried about the latency there. So like with all of our other Meross gear that we've reviewed, we're going to be coming back to them and taking a look in a future video to see if we can get them paired into Home Assistant using a custom component, and we'll be doing that also with the essential oil diffuser here. So that's the Meross Smart Wi-Fi Essential Oil Diffuser. If you're into aromatherapy or just like your house to smell nice, but you also want to be able to automate at least some of the process of making that happen, this is a reasonable way to go about it. That said, at $65.99, it is on the pricier end of the spectrum for an essential oil diffuser. And at that price point, it is competing against some more premium materials like ceramic, stone, and bamboo. and even some smart diffusers. That said, this is the only one that I've seen that has built-in HomeKit support. HomeKit certification doesn't come cheap, but I do have to wonder if this device is, at least in some part, a solution looking for a problem. Other than the RGB lighting and the light and heavy spray modes, the rest of the smart functionality here could probably be reasonably achieved with a smart plug, with scheduling functionality, and potentially at a lower cost as well. I feel like there's some features missing from the device, like a water level sensor and a push notification combined with that so that it warns you when the water level gets a bit too low. Instead, I tested this out, and when the water level gets too low, it just turns the device off and refuses to turn the ultrasonic mister back on. There's no notification about why, either in the HomeKit or the Meross app at all. The Apple Home crashing bug is frustrating, but I feel like that's a software issue, and it may just be a case that I need to remove and re-add the accessory into HomeKit now that I've updated the firmware. And not being able to activate the auto cycle colors via HomeKit also bothers me a little bit, but I feel like that's more of a HomeKit limitation than a Meross one. I think the design is nice. It's certainly not offensive in any way, but I would like to see a version of this in a shape other than garlic bulb, and maybe even some more premium materials like a thin bamboo veneer would look quite nice, I think, with this. I do also wish that the light was a fair bit brighter. It'd even be interesting to see a combination of this diffuser with, say, their ambient light, which, spoiler alert, I'll be reviewing next week. Don't get me wrong, I am grateful to Meross for sending this over to me, and I 100% will be getting some use out of it once I've determined what essential oils that I can use that are safe for the cat. I think that being able to ask Siri to turn the diffuser on and off, and also change the color of the RGB to suit the mood, might just be a nice addition to a relaxing space like the bedroom, or even my home office, to help to keep me relaxed throughout a hectic workday. And I can always close the door of my office to keep the cat out and away from the diffuser if I'm unable to find a cat-safe oil. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. That's all we have for this video, and I do hope that it helped you in your smart home journey. Be sure to drop a comment below with home automation ideas you'd like to see me cover in future videos. And don't forget to follow HiveMind Automation on Instagram and Facebook. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button down below to give it a like. And if you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing now. While you're at it, if you hit the bell icon, you'll get notified when I release new videos each week. And lastly, if you like what I'm doing here and you want to support the channel, there is a Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description. Any contribution you make through Buy Me a Coffee does get put towards making more and hopefully better content for you to enjoy. Don't forget to check out my website, hivemindautomation.com.au. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Stu from HiveMind Automation, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.